Hi, everybody, and welcome to Story Hour. I am your host, Daniel Marcus. My fabulous co-host is Laura Blackwell, and it is Wednesday evening here in California, and we're back again bringing you spectacular spoken word speculative fiction. We feature work from across the entire multiverse of speculative genres: horror, fantasy, hard SF, space opera, your favorite punk dialect, slipstream weird, grim dark weird, and so on and so on. We love to have new writers who have just sold their first few stories, and we love to have award-winning seasoned pros, and really everybody in between. So I started Story Hour like almost exactly 6 years ago. It was right in the throes of the pandemic, early days, and things were very weird, not at all like now. And I wanted to create a place where my friends and I could get together and share our work and enjoy a little community and kind of shelter in place against the crazy shit that was going on out there. And shortly after I kicked it off, I asked my friend and colleague Laura Blackwell to join me in co-hosting, and we have been at it ever since. 6 years, man. It's insane. So fast forward 6 years, and things out there are still weird and trending weirder, but Story Hour is here every week. I really think that we need stories more than ever. I think we need each other more than ever. So we're not going anywhere. Um, Story Hour relies on a really ancient tradition, which is folks sitting around the fire telling lies. And every week we continue this practice. We have two writers, about 30 minutes each, narrating their own work. We want to thank the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America for awarding us the SIFWA Givers Grant to help us keep the lights on and keep these virtual rooms open. Givers Fund grants are intended to aid projects that align with SEFWA's mission to promote, advance, and support science fiction and fantasy writing around the world. This fund is made possible with the generosity of donors from our community and partnerships within the publishing landscape. So thank you, SEFWA. With that, we welcome our authors this evening, Effie Seiberg and J.R. Dawson. And we're going to start the program with Effie. Effie Seiberg is a Nebula-nominated fantasy and science fiction writer. Her short stories can be found in Lightspeed, Analog, Diabolical Plots, and Podcastle, among other places. Effie is disabled with ME, CFS, and is an ambulatory wheelchair user and has done activism around that. This includes op-eds for the San Francisco Chronicle and satire readings at No Kings rallies. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, where she is a small dog's emotional support human. You can read more of her work at effieseiberg.com or find her on Blue Sky at fes.bsky.social. And you can find her here right now. Effie, thanks for coming back. Take it away.
Thanks so much for having me back. I love being here. Um, I'm so excited to read for you guys today. Laser Eyes Ain't Everything. This is in no way whatsoever related to my own experiences as a wheelchair user. No way at all. Content note is ableism. This originally appeared in Diabolical Plots in May of last year. Laser Eyes Ain't Everything. The super-abled 501 local union building wasn't ADA compliant. I sat in my wheelchair next to the 3 steps that led to their front door and groaned. My brand new laser eyes didn't exactly fix my mobility problems. 2 weeks ago, I'd been zapped by a falling piece of alien spaceship debris and developed laser eyes. 10 days ago, I'd lost my job at the city planner's office because of budget cuts. I wasn't even mad, though, because I could never push my project through, and you know who gets stuff done without anyone getting in their way? The super-abled. As soon as I got home, I filled in my union application. Yesterday, I'd gotten notice that I could join after I demonstrated my new laser eyes in person. And now, here I was. Stuck. A rubbery guy walked out the front door, legs stretching and compressing like a slinky. "Excuse me," I said, brandishing my paperwork. "Is there another way into the building?" Stretchy Legs looked me up and down. "You sure you're in the right place?" I sighed and took off my sunglasses, then lasered the small patch of grass next to the sidewalk. "Yeah. So, is there another way in?" He shook his head. So could you get someone to come out? Nobody's answering the phones. Right, sure. Hey, why are you in a wheelchair if you're superabled? I took a deep breath and reminded myself that ignorance wasn't malice. Laser eyes ain't everything. Can you go grab someone? Eventually, a harried intern came and explained that testing had to be done inside, where specialized equipment made sure nobody was cheating. But if I wanted, we could get one of their super strong members to carry me and my chair in. Normally, I'd never submit to such indignity. But figuring I could get this sorted more effectively as a member than a non-member, I said okay. A large woman who looked like she was made of striped sedimentary rocks clomped over and gathered me up, wheelchair and all, like I was just a bag of groceries. Humiliating, dehumanizing, and not exactly the best first impression in a professional context. Once she put me back down, I hoped that everyone, myself included, would forget that ever happened. Inside, in a room full of lenses and sensors, I lasered things. I turned paper into ashes, melted concrete into a glowing blob, and then, because nobody was saying anything, with great care, I lasered the wobbly words, "Is this enough?" in char marks on the wall. My application was approved. I'd been trying to get traffic circles built since I'd started at the city planner's office. As an assistant, I hadn't had much sway over anything. Each time there was a different reason. Sometimes there was no budget. Sometimes it wasn't what the voters wanted, though had anyone actually asked the voters? Of course not. Sometimes there was no time to spend on this, and really I should be focusing on the important things like fixing the coffee machine. But the super-abled? They could do anything they wanted. They had no bosses to tell them no, and what were you going to do? Try to stop a super-abled person from doing, well, anything? Over the next week, I went through the list of superheroes in the union roster and started contacting them one by one. I introduced myself and gave my little spiel about how traffic circles save lives compared to regular intersections, and how this little change could make a big difference, and weren't we super abled all in the business of saving lives? And the responses weren't encouraging. Expandy Ray wouldn't lend me his ray gun to grow an intersection wider so I could carve it into a circle after because insurance wouldn't cover it. Ascend Ant said she was too busy with an autograph signing to get ants to dismantle bits of pavement and carry them to a new orientation. Night Flight wouldn't lift and move sections of street without consulting with the union PR rep, who wrote that redoing city infrastructure wasn't on brand for the union, and maybe I should just find a nice supervillain to fight instead. The Smash sent me back an email that looked like she'd mashed her fists all over the keyboard and called it a day. But most of them didn't respond at all. They still hadn't built a ramp, and meetings were in person, so I joined the union meeting by video. The HR rep made a big deal about making a special exception for me because I didn't really need this accommodation because someone could carry me in like before. I managed to keep my smile plastered on my face. The union leader, a woman named Big Dig with hands like gopher claws, went through the agenda. Most of it was assigning press stuff, but eventually we got to the one real thing. The union wanted to defeat Dr. Croc, a green, scaly menace who'd been razing buildings, most recently a conference center. I knew that place well. Its front doors were too narrow for my chair, and the one time I'd gone to a conference, I'd had to get in near the dumpsters in the back, which had meant waiting by the dumpsters for an hour until I too smelled like garbage until someone brought up the service elevator, which meant my boss was so grossed out that he'd sent me right back home to shower. Destroying a conference center wasn't great, but if you absolutely had to, I'd choose this one. When it was time, I introduced myself and said, "I'm sorry I'm not there in person to meet everyone. I'll be so glad to join you once there's a ramp." Crickets. So I was wondering when there was a chance to suggest new business. Traffic circles save lives over intersections, and I was thinking that if someone like phase matter could turn an intersection's pavement into a liquid, and then we reroute it and solidify it back, we could make a big difference to the city without a lot of effort. I have a research paper on traffic circles, if anyone's interested. Nobody was listening. The union leader ahemed and said, Everyone, there's snacks outside. Mingle and enjoy. Razorbeam, can you stay on a minute? And she waited until everyone else filed out of the room. I just wanted to touch base. The 501 really cares about accessibility, but with dues the ways they are, we can't afford to put in a ramp right now. Okay, but the ADA says, this building is actually old enough to be grandfathered in. Besides, if we built a ramp for you, we'd have to make adjustments for everybody. Backless chairs for Lizard Beth so her tail would fit better, upgrade the bathroom plumbing for Rock Gal. You get the idea, the budget would explode. There's even a rule in the union handbook from about 7 years ago that says we don't do accommodations when it's for just one member. Temporary ramps were pretty cheap, but I tried switching tactics. Maybe I could still get something else done. Can we talk about traffic circles then? Unfortunately, it's not on our list of priorities for the year, so maybe some other time. And we'd really rather you not bug all the other union members about it, but hopefully you can join us in person for the next meeting. You're missing out on all the networking. She hung up. I breathed deeply, then lasered a hole in my living room wall. Throughout the next week, I waited for my union-issued superwatch to vibrate and call me into action. On Friday, it finally did, telling me to come to HQ. Yet again, I hit the problem of the stairs, but it turned out to not matter because they wanted me for an outdoor photo shoot as the newest member of the team, together with an interview with a local journalist. The PR rep held giant cue cards with what I was supposed to say to the journalist, and the whole exercise seemed pretty meaningless. But then the journalist asked, "And Razorbeam, how do you feel about Dr. Croc getting away yesterday after he smashed up the craft supply store on Main Street?" The PR rep's eyes widened. Probably the journalist hadn't vetted this question with them. And I was taken aback too. I'd had no idea that there was a new Dr. Croc incident. Um, I'm sure we'll get him next time. What's really important here, jumped in the PR rep, is that we have a wonderful new member of the team. Our diversity makes us stronger, and that lets us better serve the people of this city. Thank you for your time. After the journalist was hurried out, I asked the rep what had happened. "Oh, it's just a craft store. Don't worry about it." "Okay, but why wasn't I called to help? I was free, and maybe if I was there, he wouldn't have gotten away." "Oh, well," they looked me up and down. "We want to save your abilities for the projects that use them best. I'm sure the next time you'll be called. See you then." As they sauntered away, I lasered a patch of grass into a charred black splotch in frustration. But why a craft supplies store? What would a supervillain have against pipe cleaners and construction paper? A convention center was the center of big meetups and commerce. It was a big deal to a city, but a little craft shop? I wasn't a fan of that store. I'd gone once to get poster board for a rally, and the aisles of supplies were crammed so close together that I couldn't really maneuver. But, a craft store really made no sense. 2 weeks later, at the next union meeting, still via video, I came prepared with a proposal. If I could get help blocking traffic, I could sort of make traffic circles happen by myself. I'd spent the last few weeks experimenting with asphalt and found that after I melted it, I sort of could push it around with a shovel, and it wasn't the most efficient, but it would work. I never got to talk. There had been another Dr. Croc attack that nobody had invited me to, and it was at a perfectly wheelchair-accessible gym. And this time they put up some photos from the gym fight. They'd brought the journalist, but not me. I'd been to that gym. It was a crappy old place where the windows didn't properly close and all the fluorescent lights flickered and there was a greasy sheen of something on all the surfaces. So not that many people went to it anyway, and I doubt many people were sad it was destroyed. What was Dr. Croc's goal here anyway? Nobody was trying to figure out what the pattern was, and it seemed like nobody could stop the guy. Expandy Ray was in the hospital with a shattered femur. Rock Gal had some new epoxy-filled cracks on her face. I didn't even try to bring up traffic circles. The attacks kept coming, and I kept not getting an invitation to come help. I did experiments in my own backyard on how far I could accurately laser things and sent the results to Big Dig. It didn't change anything, even though I was pretty sure I had the most reach out of any of the super-abled who had distance or projectile abilities. Okay, I did get an angry letter from my landlord who saw the charred remains of my experiments and I had to buy a fire extinguisher. But so one thing changed, but that was it. If I couldn't help fight, perhaps I could help predict. I went to the library and read all I could about Dr. Croc and found nothing that made sense. There was no obvious vendetta I could find, nothing about past grudges or feuds or needs for revenge. As a 20-something, he'd had an airboat accident in a swamp and had been bitten by a mutated crocodile. But the toxic waste plant that has oozed its sludge into the swamp to affect the crocodiles had long since been dealt with. There had been lawsuits, cleanup efforts, it hadn't been in business in years. And now the site was an ecology museum with exhibits about the dangers of pollution in wetlands. So I needed a new theory. I made one of those conspiracy boards at home with the printed out pictures and thumbtacks and pieces of string connecting pieces of information. Okay, conference center, craft supply store, gym. Previously had demolished an ancient movie theater that showed old movies on a rattling old projector, and a little hardware store crammed full of tools and paints all the way to the ceiling with really high checkout counters that had even more goods underneath them. But after weeks of trying to put together the puzzle pieces, I still had nothing. Chez Louisette was the one fancy restaurant in town, and it was having a grand reopening on Wednesday. It was no crappy gym or dusty craft store, but it was an opportunity with a lot of press, so maybe, just maybe, Dr. Croc would be there? Maybe? On Wednesday morning, I sent a note to Big Dig about my theory and then went to stake the place out. Not only was I right, but Dr. Croc had beat me there. As soon as I got near, I heard a huge crash, and another, and then two green, scaly fists burst through its wall, raining down bits of brick. Nobody else was here, but this was my chance. Maybe if I could take him down alone, the union would take me seriously and we could get something done. I lasered a giant hole in the wall, which tottered and fell forward, revealing a very angry crocodile man. He was about 8 feet tall, mostly a torso on stubby green legs, and his arms were muscular, massive, and gearing up for another punch. Hey, I said, Dr. Croc, hands in the air. I remembered protocol and pushed the button on my new super watch for the union to send backup to my location. He looked me up and down. You? He said. You, of all people, are trying to stop me. I suppressed a scream. Why were people so difficult everywhere? Disabled people can be super able too, you know. Now I can laser you dead from here in less time than it'd take you to throw a chunk of wall at me, so I suggest you put your hands up. You don't get it. Do you know what this restaurant's been doing? Uh, being snooty? They won't reveal their ingredients, which is dangerous for people with allergies and celiacs and whatnot. He looked smug, as though this magically explained everything. I mean, that's awful, but that's no reason to destroy the whole building or any of the other places you've been smashing up. Now you're under arrest by order of the super-abled 501 local union. Hands up. He scoffed, but slowly raised his hands and stepped out towards me. Behind him were the twisted stainless steel remains of what had been a kitchen. Still a believer, huh? Tell me, did the 501 ever add any outdoor handrails? What does that have to do with any? No? I was a member 7 years ago. As for some accommodations so my kid could join on Take Your Child to Work Day, they never added any. Each time it was, there's no budget, or that decision was made by the previous leadership, and nothing ever changed. Eventually, they had a vote that said any changes to the union of any kind, which benefit only one person, were out, specifically to shut me up. Even though accessibility accommodations help loads of people, and they wouldn't even know how many people weren't applying in the first place because the building was inaccessible. It sounded familiar and enraging. Okay, it's crappy, I said, but it's still no reason to destroy everything. Oh, yeah? He asked, moving closer. Have they built you a ramp yet? Um, no, I didn't think so. They just can't be bothered. Okay, so they suck, fine, but why destroy all these other buildings? Dr. Croc continued. Nobody can be bothered to make accommodations. The ADA is only enforced when people bring lawsuits. I'm in a giant Facebook group of parents with disabled kids, and basically nobody has the time and money to sue, ever. And even then, most lawsuits fail. But when I destroy an inaccessible building, the insurance covers it. And when they rebuild, it's no longer so old that it gets accessibility exemption. Plus, it's safe since everyone gets evacuated. No people get harmed. We get the accessibility we need. There was nobody here this morning when I started smashing. That can't be right, I said, as his hands started floating downwards. Hey, hands stay up. Look, I used to work for the city. There are plenty of avenues to ask for accommodations. And besides, what was so inaccessible about that gym? Or the other places? He put his hands up again. That gym had flickering lights which can trigger migraines, seizures, or meltdowns. The movie theater never bothered to add closed captioning devices. And the hardware store had high checkout counters and never let its cashiers sit, even when one of them broke a leg. Okay, but that makes no sense. Why not just destroy the gym's lights? Or the hardware store's checkout counters? There's no reason they couldn't rebuild with the exact same problems. Besides, I doubt anyone even knows this is why stuff's getting destroyed. You're not exactly getting headlines that say Dr. Croc destroys another inaccessible building. Huh, he said, lowering his hands briefly and then thinking better of it and shoving them up again. Yeah, that's a good point. Probably should have just smashed up those counters. Probably should have left a note or something. Hey, you're good at this. You should join me. I'm not gonna start smashing up buildings. I'm one of the good guys. Oh, yeah? Those good guys that can't even get you a ramp? Those things cost what, like 200 bucks at Home Depot? He had a point. With the union taking a percentage of all sponsorships and deals, and members working with giant brands like Nike, they could absolutely find space in their budget for a measly $200. They could get a single backless stool for Lizardbeth for cheap. They just weren't bothering to take those 2 minutes to think of solutions to help. And even I hadn't thought of the problems with flickering lights and old movie equipment. But most of all, nothing was getting done. The local 501 was so busy with its public image it wasn't doing jack. Here I was, talking to their arch enemy for a good 5 minutes, and nobody else was showing up. This is ridiculous, I muttered. It is ridiculous. We'd make great partners, you and me, actually make some changes around here. What would you do about the movie theater? Huh, I don't know. I guess I'd laser get captioning devices or else on their walls. Or send a note to local insurance companies that said their clients are at risk of expensive damages if they don't shore up accessibility and they have 2 weeks to fix things. I shook my head, but that's irrelevant. See? Those are great ideas. You're full of them. So join me. What do you think? No more smashing up buildings when you've got a better plan, I promise. He gave me a crocodile grin, showing all his teeth. My garage is fully accessible and is a great place to meet. And I make a mean dairy-free hot chocolate. Something inside me snapped. It had been years since someone thought about accessibility for me without me having to even ask. And maybe this way I could actually get something done. Especially if Dr. Croc was willing to let me focus him. Get him laser focused, if you will. And with a bit of time, I could probably come up with some better plans that were less destructive and more effective. Hell, I said, only if we make some traffic circles too. Oh, I read those things save a lot of lives. Okay, we do that next. You in? Why not? I said, and grinned back. And just for some much needed catharsis, I lasered an already wrecked piece of kitchen behind him. The metal melted into a ramp-like shape. Thank you so much.
Damn, that was great. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much. Ah, a lot of the work that we hear here, and I love it, but much of it is very dark, and it's very nice to laugh. Thank you. It's our custom here at Story Hour to just take a beat, take a pause, just to sort of let the previous work resonate and get ourselves ready for the next work. So we're going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to pause for a second, take a breath. Um, I encourage you all to do the same or do whatever you want. Effie Seiberg, folks. Thanks, Effie. Great to see you again. Our next author is J.R. Dawson. J.R. Dawson is a Nebula finalist and the Golden Crown award-winning author of The First Bright Thing. They have had shorter works in places such as F&SF, Lightspeed, Sunday Morning Transport, and Uncanny. Dawson currently lives on Dakota land in Minnesota with her loving wife. She teaches at Drexel University's MFA program for creative writing and fills her free time with keeping her three chaotic dogs out of trouble. Her latest book, The Lighthouse at the Edge of the World, is a sapphic Orpheus retelling. You can find her at jrdawsonwriter.com. Welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much for having me. Um, I really love Effie's work, and I'm really happy that she got us in contact and that I can be here tonight. Um, so this is Six People to Revise You, which was originally in Uncanny Magazine issue 62 and also on their podcast, which was in January of 2025. And like Effie's, this is also a Nebula finalist. Six people to revise you. A parent or guardian. Someone who has known you since childhood. A mentor or teacher. An employer or coworker. A spouse, partner, or close intimate friend. Someone who does not consider themselves a loved one. Red. The form is 1 page long. No back, just a front. It should be longer. There are 6 copies of the form, all different colors. Like I'm working my way through the rainbow to the end, where I'll finally find peace. Red, a parent or guardian. I meet my mother for lunch at the little bistro down the street. She's an anxious person, and it is hard for her to find her way in this part of the city. She wanted to meet at the McDonald's near her house, but I wanted to stay in my neighborhood, and this place has outdoor seating. It's summer. It's nice. While the rest of the world burns, it seems like Minneapolis holds on to normal temperatures, and we're still living up here in a bubble. Some flooding. The last 2 epidemics, yeah, but no fires, no heat days, just a cool 85 degrees. Mom sits down, her lips already pursed. She crosses her legs. She looks around at all the people like they're going to laugh at her. She hates going outside. I need to make this count for her. We order food quick. I make sure she knows I'm paying. She asks if it's okay if she gets a pop. I say yes. She asks why I'm wearing my mask around her. Do you think I'm infected or something? No, I say. We're just being really careful. Before she asks anything else, I take out the red form. 1 sheet, 5 questions after the initial information, fill in the blank. Rachel Wendy Colson, 59, F, mother, etc. So you're doing it, she says, eyeing the paper as I put the other colors away back into the folder with the logo of the hospital on the front. Revision Labs, Twin Cities. I am, I say. Well, I think it's smart, she says. Therapy hasn't been working, and how many years have you been doing that? This seems cheaper, even with your copay. I swallow. They want you to answer the form, and I brought a pen. So, she says, taking the paper form from over the wire metal table and giving me a wry smile. I can just write, I want her to give me $1 million and that's okay. She says it like a joke, but there's something behind her words that sticks out like needles hidden in carpet. I should have asked my father. I should have parents who don't smile like that. But this isn't a revision for her. It's a revision for me. Sure, I offer a very uncomfortable laugh. She takes out her reading glasses, puts them on her face, looks down her nose, and scans the form. Well, this feels like a trap, she says. You're not going to like anything I put on here. Like what? My mind is already worrying. There's never knowing the depths of how much mom's truths are going to hurt. Like, can they change anything? She says. I nod, because I need to know the truth. There's a place at the bottom after you answer the questions about the current draft, as they call it, what is now, who I am now, where you can write your top 3 from most important to least important. Just things I would change about you. Things that would make life easier for me. She taps the pen to her chin, and then she writes, a little too fast, 3 things. She passes it back. She sits back in her chair, bracing for me to read it. I know every muscle in her face, every twitch in her body. I've been translating them like runes for survival since I was a child. I know she wrote something that will curdle my blood. The doctor said it would be best if I don't read anyone's answers until the end. My therapist said that it might shed some light if I do. I had already agreed within myself that I would read them before the end, but not in front of the person, and I would not tell Sadie about any of this until it was already finalized, and I absolutely had to get her to write in her own answers on the blue-colored copy. But the way my mom is looking at me, I have to look. 1. Liza's life would be much easier if she was happy with her given gender. That's my biggest wish. 2. Liza would be a wonderful mother if she actually wanted to be. 3. We couldn't afford to fix her teeth. None of these come as a surprise, but the fact they're written on this sheet, I remind myself the doctor said if there was a real reason for concern, my therapist could sign off and get a request negated. And I know my therapist will have my back on number 1, but you shouldn't be surprised, she says. I'm not, I say. And that night, I will probably think of 1,000 things to say beyond that, but right now, I'm just dead inside. At least she wouldn't have me give up Sadie. Orange. Ryan has known me since I was in the 3rd grade. He has a shit memory, and we haven't spoken for a few years, but we always seem to come back to each other whenever we have a moment and come up for air from our busy lives. I've mailed him the orange sheet. He texts me to let me know it should be arriving today, back at my house, all stamped and sealed and ready. Sadie won't see that Ryan has written me because Sadie doesn't get the mail. I do. Sadie is at her work on her computer inside the house when I check the box, and there it is. In this day and age with postal workers being shady, I don't know why Revisions wants us to use the snail mail, but here we are. Just some junk in an overstuffed envelope. I rip it open. I just have one thing. Liza is super standoffish. If they could just trust people more, I think they'd be happier. And there's something that twists in my stomach. A memory of Ryan punching a wall and leaving homecoming. The 2 of us hanging out at the park dome. Him saying my clothes were too baggy. The time he got drunk and called me saying it was my fault I was alone because I never gave the good guys a chance. I put the orange copy with the red copy. Yellow and green. I can hit 2 in 1. I work at the high school where I graduated. After work, when the students have finally straggled out of the music room, I meet up with the band teacher next door, Mr. Carson, or Tony, and then Mrs. Rhodes joins us from the English department upstairs. Because Tony is band and I am choir vocal, we have a connection that comes from being in the spring musical trenches together year after year. We don't go out for coffee. He doesn't know my real pronouns. He hasn't seen my house. But I know he's been cheating on his wife with the guidance counselor and loves watching the sun come up over the parking lot at 6 a.m. In the same vein, he knows that when the kids are gone and I think no one is listening, I'll improv on the piano to get my feelings out. He knows that I miss my grandma every day. He knows that sometimes when the kids cuss me out, I go into our shared office and cry. It's an intimacy between teachers on the front lines. Mrs. Rhodes told me to call her Rhonda years ago when I started working here, but Rhonda Rhodes will never be a peer for me. She'll only be my senior English teacher with the horn-rimmed glasses of undiscernible age, like a mythical demigod that Odysseus comes across on his travails, above humanity, beyond comprehension. As an adult, I was horrified when I was sitting in the faculty lounge one day and she came in holding her pantyhose in one hand and her shoes in another. Don't ask, she'd shot off before dodging into the bathroom. Other than that one incident, I was still Liza to her and she was still Mrs. Rhodes. This is all to say, if there are coworkers and teachers I trust with knowing I'm going to revisions, these are the two I can trust not only to not judge or ask prying questions, but answer truthfully. They know me. Sides of me no one else did. I admire them. They know what it means to be a teacher. So, we sit down in the practice room behind Tony's and my classrooms, make the keyboard and a makeshift table, and each take a bench or a small stool to circle up and fill out the worksheets. 72? Tony snorts as he peers over at Mrs. Rhodes' yellow copy. You're not 72. I am, she said stiffly, the same horn-rimmed glasses bobbing on the edge of her wide nose. Tony shakes his head. I'll be long retired by the time I'm 72, he says, going back to his green sheet. Now, Mrs. Coulson, Mrs. Rhodes said, we still haven't decided on what to call me. She used to call me Liza, just Liza, but now my role here at school is Miss Coulson, or Miss C. Maybe she calls me this out of respect, like she knows I don't see myself as an equal. Welcome to Mount Olympus, Miss Coulson, Mrs. Coulson, Miss Coulson, Miss. I'm sorry, I don't understand this. What is this? You can't tell me you haven't seen any revision ads anywhere, Tony says, scribbling while he talks. I just don't understand why they need to know what we think, Mrs. Rhodes said. Capitalism, probably, Tony says, still scribbling. Well, I chose you because you know me, I say honestly. You had me as a student, so just maybe write down the things that you think would help me focus. You were an exceptional student, she says. Tony scribbles. A part of me wants him to say I'm an exceptional teacher, too. But he doesn't. There's a worm inside me that eats away at a hole, making it bigger and bigger. Okay, well, was I a happy kid? I say. As happy as any teenager is, she says. You're such a pretty girl. I don't understand why you're going through this. It's not plastic surgery, Tony sniffs. So I don't write down anything physical, she says. Well, you can if you want, I say. Oh, really? Tony laughs. A joke. It's a joke. I force a laugh, too. Well, I suppose it would make your life easier if your hair wasn't so curly, she says. She pats her own curly hair, short and tight to her head. I know it can be a bear in the morning, and sometimes, well, to be honest, you look tired sometimes. That could make things easier. I guess, I say. It's up to you. So what do I write? She asks. I can't really tell you. Just something such as straight hair. Sure. I feel like a fairy godmother, Mrs. Rhodes giggles, writing down in cursive straight hair, giving you a gift. Tony slams his pencil down and flips his green sheet around in the same manner as a fourth grader who just wrote farts a lot. But after they both leave, their totes over their shoulder and them both fishing for car keys, while the practice room door shuts behind them, I look to see what he wrote. 1. Liza could do with a little more confidence. 2. Liza should play the piano more often. 3. Better posture will help with singing and confidence. Could be worse. but something about it still churned inside me. Oh, really? Tony had laughed. Better posture will help with singing and confidence. Oh, really? Oh, really? I was being sensitive. Literally nothing written was bad. I put the yellow and green sheets back in the folder. Blue. I'm not ready to tell Sadie. I was going to tell her when she came down for breakfast, but now that she's 2 feet away from me pouring cereal from the bag to the bowl, I can't say anything. The sheet is in my hand. I could slip it across the table when she sits down. She sits down. I fold the paper up and put it in my pocket. What do you have going on today? She asks me, digging into her Cheerio knockoffs. I shrug. Typical Saturday. We go our separate ways, Sadie weeding the garden and me locking myself up in my home office. I click into the video chat room to see that my therapist's other client is already there. We don't know each other, but I know his name is Noah and he's gone through the revision. I click on my video and he does too. We reveal ourselves to one another. Me, a mess in my messy office. Him, his hair perfectly parted, and his Saturday lounge clothes nicer than what I usually wear to a funeral. His eyes are bright. His skin is clear. He's had 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Somehow, even with the world on fire outside our windows, he is internally a tranquil pond full of dancing swans. Our therapist thought we'd get along because we're both originally from St. Paul and we play piano, 2 things that can bring any strangers together. He smiles. Hey there, Liza. He says it like we've been good friends since college. I offer a smile. Hey, Noah. He tells me about the procedure, how they knock you out. You wake up, a couple of days to come back online, he jokes, and then you're home. It does take about 48 hours for the brain fog to lift, he explains. It doesn't hurt. It's barely disorienting. It's like when you wake up in the morning and have to remind yourself where you are or who you are. Do you miss anything about before the revision? I say. He thinks about it for a second, honestly, and then with a small crack in his smile, he says, I don't listen to as much music as I did, I suppose. I used to bang on everything, shove it through my car speakers, tinker around on my keyboard. It was very annoying and overstimulating for those around me, so it isn't so much that I miss it. It's that it's something I remember enjoying, and now I don't enjoy it. That doesn't make much sense. I guess I would say I miss my snaggletooth. It was just something very ugly, but also, it was me. But I suppose this is also me. Everyone changes through life, even if they don't have a revision. Purple. The last time I saw Caroline, we were 23, and I was moving out. There's something poisonous about knowing someone so well, having your heart the closest to theirs, so you could touch souls. And then they are strangers. The tone they always took with the cashier at your favorite restaurant is now softer and kinder than the one they reserve for you. Once Caroline and I stayed up late in our dorm room sophomore year, throwing popcorn and drinking Baileys, watching old Kevin Smith movies. Now Caroline sits with a straight back at the bistro where I met my mother. She would like this place. Maybe that's why I picked it a few days before, because I was picking it for her. Because maybe I could show I'd changed enough to be worthy of her voice. It had taken some messaging to get her to meet me. I knew she was in the Twin Cities area. We both had gone to college here. We both had never moved. And yet I hadn't seen her in 15 years. When I moved out of our senior apartment, she just gave a wave and a goodbye, and that was that. I don't even remember the last glimpse I got of her. We were supposed to go on a road trip later that summer. We didn't. It wasn't supposed to be goodbye. Sadie wouldn't care I was here. Caroline had never been with me. We had been sisters. And yet I hadn't told Sadie where I was going. Because there was no reason to see Caroline unless I wanted to unearth 15 years of pain. Hey, I offer, my voice too loud. Caroline, slim and sleek and wearing just the right clothes, a cooler version of who I wished I was. She just looked over her phone to me and forced herself a pithy, hello. Her eyebrow raised and her eyes lowered back to the phone as she said it, like it took everything in her to shove the word out. Sometimes there aren't big blowouts between people. Sometimes people just grow in two different directions until there's nothing left to see of the other. Thank you for meeting me, I say. I take a seat, scooted in too loud, put the folder in my purse on the table. Maybe in another life, in another dimension, we meet here every week and I could ask to see pictures of her kids. Or at least I could know if she had kids. That used to be our trajectory. And maybe we would be talking about the weather, or the next soccer game, or something other than this. So revisions, you said? She offers. A part of me is glad she didn't sink her teeth into a bitter, it's been a long time. We know it has been a long time. Yeah, I say, it's the last page. She sighs, puts her phone down on the wire table and leans back with her arms and legs both crossed. I lose my train of thought. She does not want to be here. I do. I want to see her, to know her. I wish I had been a worthy human to have her friendship forever. That's why purple had to be her. She can tell me how to be fixed. So the last witness I need, I say, is someone who doesn't consider themselves a friend. Someone who, well, is the opposite of a friend. No offense. I don't mean to. No, you're right, she says. The way people move when they say heartless things. She looks down her nose at the table like she is speaking to me, but I have hair made of snakes. I'm right. 15 years ago, this person stopped taking my calls. 15 years ago, I started wondering why. My stomach sinks. Well, I guess then you're the perfect one to do this, I say. I pull out the purple sheet from the folder and pass it to her across the wire table, although it feels like I'm crossing a boundary by putting any limbs closer to her radius. Who am I to hand her something? Maybe she won't take it. She takes it. What did I do, Caroline? I wanted to ask. Why do you hate me? She takes out a pen that she has in her purse. She scribbles out the information. She starts it too fast and then ends it too slowly. A waitress comes in halfway through her writing and interrupts. She just looks up at the waitress with that smile she reserves for people she wants to like but doesn't know. Oh, I'll take a jasmine tea to go, please, she says. Thank you so much. To go. Stumbling, I say. Same. She flicks her eyes at me and then scribbles something else. Finally, she sets it down on the table a little too hard. She puts a salt shaker on top so it won't fly away. She says, well, good seeing you and good luck. She stands. Wait, that's it? I hear myself say. She stops like I have gone off script. Yes. I have never heard an S sound so sharp. Okay, I say. It's been 15 years. She rolls her eyes. I knew this was going to be a whole thing. Lizzie, there are people dying in the streets. The world is on fire. No one has time for all this. She waves her hand. Lizzie, no one has called me that since college, and it burns in my stomach like a warm fire back when I believed I could be someone beautiful. Goodbye, Lizzie, she says. Good luck on your procedure, and may you heal fast. She's gone. The purple sheet is still there. I look to it. L is self-centered. L is too sensitive. L is a hypocrite. But again, I haven't known L for years. The fact she's getting this done at all makes me believe that she is still warring with herself. She needs to buck up and stop leaning on others. She needs to let things go. She needs to understand the rest of us don't think about her. Blue. It has been a month. The folder sits on my side of the closet between some old U-Haul boxes that smell like even older laundry. Sadie hasn't found it. Maybe a part of me wanted her to. I can't lock in my surgery day until I have all the paperwork filled out. I finally hit her up as we're sitting in the attic's library and she's reading and I'm fucking around on the computer. It's built in me like a festering electric storm. I've waited too long to say it, and with every time I've put it off, the harder it's gotten to open my mouth. Finally, I say, so you heard of revisions? The thing all the billionaires are pushing in ad space? Yeah, she says. She doesn't put her book down. They say they can make you happy. A lot of people say that, she says. If it was that easy, they wouldn't need to flood my feed with it. But what if it can? I say. Deirdre had it done at the beginning of last summer. She looks great. She says she feels great. Deirdre? She teaches English at the school. Oh, okay. Good for her. I pause. Sadie, Deirdre doesn't go to therapy anymore. She's gotten Teacher of the Year. She gave me the name of her doctor. She says our insurance covers it, and I checked, and I would really love to give it a chance. Sadie puts her book down. She looks to me, not in surprise, but with those big eyes like she wishes she could pick me up and hold me. I know you do, she says. They've been sitting in the closet for a month. So you did see them? Well, I didn't go poking through them, no, Sadie says. The logo's on the outside of the folder. Well, if you'd read them, you'd see how much work needs to be done. Sadie nods. I looked up who needs to fill out what in order to give the doctors pinpoints to change. I'm guessing you asked your mom, Caroline, probably Ryan, and you're about to ask me. Yes, I say. Just yes to it all. Sadie nods. She quietly stands up from her overstuffed chair, forgetting her book. In her soft way, she crosses the carpeted floor to her desk. She opens a drawer and takes out a manila envelope. She hands it to me, her socks tiptoeing across the room like a ballerina. Here, she says, I will fill out your blue sheet, but only if you read these. What is this? I say, I told you I checked our insurance. They're from our friends, she said. A couple of your students, your brother and your uncle and your aunt, my mom and dad, Charles next door, and your graduate student cohort. People who know you and love you. She holds out her hand. Where's the sheet? You're not gonna stop me? It's your choice, she says. No one else's. It's what you want changed. Not Caroline, not your mom, not even me. We trade paperwork. I open up the envelope, undoing the little string on top, winding it off the pin. It is a thick stack of all different colors of paper. Mauve and pink and aqua and deep purple and even some blank white computer paper. Liz is a really wonderful singer. They have been a wonderful uncle to our children. They always knew how to turn anything into a game. One time they turned our table into a time machine after dinner. The kids still played the time machine table game even after all these years. They are exceptionally good at remembering birthdays, even without Facebook notifications. They are always one to cry with a friend, no matter how late it is. Video games make them smile, and their smile is contagious. I remember when they were little and I took them to the zoo and they memorized all of the names of the animals in one afternoon. They are brave and courageous to be themselves. My daughter is worried about being gay, and seeing Liz and Sadie together has really been a lifesaver. They care about their community. They are honest. They don't kill spiders. They play really beautiful music. They always know how to find the best parking spot. They mask, even when no one else does. I'm immunocompromised, so I notice. They still love stuffed animals. They brought us baby formula when we couldn't afford it. And when the third lockdown happened, they bought us a little inflatable playground for the backyard. They drove to get me flowers for my grandma's funeral and my car broke down. They made sure I got to work. Liz laughs. Liz knows what it means to be themselves. Liz is kind. Liz is kind. They are kind. Liz is kind. Then Sadie's handwriting on the last paper, a bright robin's egg blue. Liz, you are the sun. Please don't try to tame that wild light. Let it glow. See who follows it to their shores. Manila. I was going to turn in the papers today. Instead, I drive north. I pack my mask, my hand sanitizer, all the things we need now to go through the world, and I cut through the chaos to find a small, untouched piece of shore near the river. I sit there, with this folder, full to the brim, sitting on my lap. There was supposed to be peace, but it isn't here. And the thought of having straight hair or happiness in another pronoun that isn't mine, even if I make the whole world happy, the world will still be on fire. I pull out the manila envelope. I fish a pen out of my purse. I write my own list on the back. A person who genuinely cares. Someone who loves theme parks and musicals. A queer, complicated mess who is still alive. A wife, a teacher, an uncle. Someone who considers themselves worthy. A human who wants to love themselves. It's 6 lines long. It is the only thing in this entire revisions folder that is written in my handwriting. So, it is the only thing I take with me when I stand up, walk past the trash can, clean up after myself, and find my car again. I follow the setting sun back home. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was lovely. Beautiful story and beautifully read too.
I would give them both Nebula Awards.
At the very least, yeah.
At the very least.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you both for continuing to set the bar incredibly high here at Story Hour. Really lovely work, Effie Seiberg and J.R. Dawson this evening. Thank you, Laura, for being my partner in crime for these 6 years. Let's keep doing it. 6 more and then some. We're very fortunate, kind of blessed. And thank you all for coming back. Man. So, speaking of coming back, next week, come and see and hear Gwendolyn Keist and Sarah Tantlinger. Meanwhile, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.